to the Piston Fanatic. I am your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been the varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in northern Michigan. Well, Piston fans, it's here. In less than 24 hours, our Detroit Pistons will be taking the floor down in Miami against the Miami Heat, last year's runner-up for the NBA championship. And today in our episode, we have some great insight to the Pistons and their development from Arn Tellen. He is the vice chairman of the Detroit Pistons. He is formerly one of the best and biggest agents in NBA history. He was Kobe Bryant and many of the best players' agents back in the day. When Stan Van Gundy got fired, he came in and sort of took over and helped take control of the Detroit Pistons, and he's been a big part of that organization, and he helps out Troy and with drafting and trades and everything. So he has, again, a great insight and perspective of what we're trying to build, what the Pistons are trying to build, and I found it very interesting. So I heard this interview was on the Piston Pulse with Bryce Simons and Amari Sankova II, and Arn started out saying that patience and discipline to assess what we have and then decide if that missing piece is out there and we can add it in free agency or trade. We didn't want to jump the gun before we had an evaluation of these current players, and this is what I've been talking about for months now, that there's no need to hurry. We are not going to win the championship this year. We're going to try to win as hard as we can, but we need to evaluate what we have and see where we're at. We have some players. We have, Bojan has a year or maybe 2 years left on his contract. He has a buyout in the second year. We have trades that we can make. Burks is going to be a free agent at the end of this year, and so is Monte Morris. And Joe Harris. So we have a lot to evaluate. We got to decide whether we're going to pay Weissman, extend him, and Killian. They both are going to be restricted free agents at the end of this year, so we get to evaluate them. So anyway, he says we need to know where we're at, and so before we make that big move. So he said, I know it's hard. He knows it's hard for Piston fans, and I hear the Piston fans all over saying, they want to win right now. And he said, we want to win as soon as possible, but I believe that we're going to have a very good run for a long time. We just need to see this team continue to improve and develop. So this is the goal. This is Troy's vision, always been, is not to jump in and just make it into the play-in. His vision is to find a team and develop a team that is going to be sustainable for a long time, so that we can, by 2 or 3 years, we can make it. Maybe we can be a 4 or 5 seed, and maybe we can stay there or even higher, and stay there for 5 or 8 years or more. So that's what the goal is. They asked him about Cade, and he said Cade is an incredible leader, and how smart he is. He reminds him of Kobe, who he was his agent for years and years. He said he has the same basketball IQ as Kobe, and like Kobe, he has studied the game and read about the game and watched everything, and he has a great feel for the game, and he can see things happen before they even happen, just like Kobe and Magic and Bird. He said he has that gift. And again, everybody isn't born with that gift. We see it all the time, and we see it in some of the different Piston players. Why this guy can't, they've been coached, and why they can't react on defense and be at the helper spot at the right time. Anyway, he also continues, he's a great communicator, which is important for a leader. He has empathy for his teammates, and he understands them and knows what they need. He can put himself in their shoes. And again, as a coach and as a person, always try to put myself in other people's shoes, and that empathy, Kobe didn't have that empathy. Kobe's teammates were afraid of him, so maybe it did help them in some cases, some players, and maybe some players probably didn't play as well because they were scared of making Kobe mad. But Cade has that, and Cade, he even said when he was off this last year for most of the season. It was great for him that he got to really know his teammates and got to study them on the court and what they liked and how they played, and even off the court, how their personalities were. I think that was, a benefit. Obviously, we would rather have him play. He said he has all the qualities of a superb leader. He's a leader. He is the leader of our franchise, and he has everything we hoped and more when we drafted him. And he said he brings it every day, and he is such a good person. And I've said this before that there's these teams. Houston has loads and loads of talent, and OKC has tons of talent, and Orlando, and a lot of teams have all this young talent, is good or better than we do. But I contend that we have Cade Cunningham, and nobody has a leader like Cade, and they're not born very often. And so I just think that's a real positive thing. That was nice hearing Arn. And again, I encourage you to go to the Piston Pulse and listen to this episode. They also asked Troy about Ausar, and he said the biggest factor when we drafted him was he was super intelligent, high character, always are the first things that we look at when we try to evaluate players. And he said he has a great basketball mind and feel for the game. And the feel for the game you can't teach, and you can see it when you watch him play or Cade play, that everybody doesn't have that. And but great players have that, he said. And you can see him, he can see plays before they happen. He has we see that the way he cuts, where he knows when and where to cut, when he times his passes. He can be driving to the basket, and then he doesn't dribble it too many times. He dishes it just at the right moment. He also has this great timing and instincts for getting offensive rebounds. He said he's relentless. He's relentless. He competes his rear off every day. He can defend anyone on the court, no matter what position they are. He's a great team player. He doesn't force up shots. He does everything for a young player that's really unusual. He said Troy has his mind on him from the beginning. When we found out we were drafting fifth, I think Troy kind of targeted him. He said they looked at other players seriously, but he was everything that Troy wanted. So he said he hasn't disappointed. And Detroit fans, he said, are smart. This is about the rebuild. He said they know that we are on the right path, and no one wants to win more than Troy and Monty and Tom Gores. And what they want, again, I'm repeating myself, is sustainable success, and he feels like they're on their way. So interesting comments from Monty Williams about the conundrum that you get into when you're trying to balance developing young players and holding them accountable and not letting them create bad habits. So he said, Monty said, there are days when you're patient and days when you're not. I can sit here and tell you I'm Mr. Rogers every day, but I'm not. That's just not how it is. He said, I'm a human. It's my job to push and to drive and give direction and force, but it's also to love and serve and make sure that we create an environment when guys are getting better every day, and there's a path when they are trying to build and grow and be competitive. What you don't want to do is to go through the process of helping guys and making sure that they grow, and that they're not afraid of themselves. And so that can happen with players. I get kind of a little bit worried that Ivy could be getting into that place, he said. But it's a balance that you have to reach, and that is the challenge of developing a young team. And every player is different. How you can push and prod and develop. But Monty feels like you take a guy out of the game if he's making mistakes. You don't let them continue to repeat the same mistakes over again. And I think Coach Casey kind of allowed that. But Monty's philosophy is to take the guy out, talk to them, and then put him back in the game. And so the players know that they're not just going to get stuck on the bench if they make a mistake, so they don't have to fear that, but they're going to be corrected. Because I heard the interview with Cam Johnson, who was a rookie and played for his first few years for Monty, and he talked about how how great it was for the young players to not develop those bad habits. That he's seen it in the NBA that Cam has already, that players have developed bad habits, and bad habits are hard to break. I mean, as a coach, I know that, even as far as shooting form and different things, that habits are hard to break for all of us. So anyway, I think that this is a great insight to what Arn Tellen sees in the organization, and how our our team is developing, and from Monty about how he feels the balance between developing players. So I'm going to have another podcast about my projections and for the upcoming season, and we're going to talk about injuries, and which we have some important ones, and we're going to talk about some people that have signed extensions, rookie extensions, and people who are available that were waived. And there's a lot of stuff that we're going to talk about. I'm going to do another podcast real soon, today or tomorrow. And I appreciate you listening. And I'm so excited for the season. Again, I've been such a Piston fan for my whole life, for almost 60 years. And I've never been more excited about this team. But if you're listening or watching on YouTube, please subscribe and leave a thumbs up. And if you're watching on Spotify, leave a 5-star review. Be the reason that someone feels cared for and important. And let's go Pistons.